Ricky Flicks, we have our Lex Luthor for the DCU. Nicholas Hoult has been cast as the iconic big bad of Superman Legacy. Ricky Flex, this has been a rumored casting for quite a long time now. We have the actors strike that has ended. We had the writers strike and previously. We have the ramping up of Superman Legacy due out July 2025. The first film is going to kick off the DCU under James Gunn, directed by James Gunn. What grade do you give the casting of Nicholas Hoult as Luthor?
Man, I know this is your guy. This,
Mm-hmm.
this is your guy. I I don't I think Nicholas Holt's a good actor. So I think he's gonna do well here. And I trust James Gunn and Nicholas Hoult, like everything he's in, like he's never the problem. I just obviously the Skarsgårds were in the mix here, and I think they would have they were more suited to play the big bad versus a Nicholas Hoult, who again, like he's been through all the castings of the superheroes, right? Batman, Superman. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried for Green Lantern too. But hey, he gets the villain here, similar to Cillian Murphy and Batman Begins. Wanted to be Bruce Wayne, ends up being Scarecrow. I don't know if he has that big bad presence of a Lex Luthor. I just don't know it, but I like him, so I'm gonna give it a B minus.
This is an A. This is an A, Ricky. This falls in the line of people that have auditioned for heroes. Right now, Nicholas Hoult was famously in the running for the Batman, which eventually went to Robert Pattinson. He was a finalist for Superman Legacy, and that went to David Cornsweet. And we've seen this before with like Heath Ledger in the mix to play Batman for Christopher Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy, ends up playing the Joker in one of the most iconic turns in cinematic history. You have Cillian Murphy, famously, the audition tapes that were released of him as Batman, eventually plays Scarecrow in a great turn as a Batman villain. I think we have a very similar thing about to happen here. And a lot of times, like the performance, like an actor like Nicholas Hoult, I think is more suited for a villain role than as the hero. And I think it says a lot about him that he was in the running to play two of the most iconic heroes in DC history, and now is playing one of the most iconic villains. I think that it's a credit to how versatile he is, the range he has, and I think this is a guy. What I love about him is that he's a great actor, and he's not afraid of the blockbuster fare. Right? He obviously was in the X-Men franchise as younger version of Beast. He was in the what was that movie? The
Clash of the
Dracula movie.
Titans.
No, what was the Dracula one? Nick Cage.
Oh, Renfield.
Renfield. Yes. So
I
Renfield
watched
there.
Renfield. I didn't finish it, but I
I
did.
watched it too, right? But it's just showing like he's not afraid for like blockbuster fare. And I love this casting. I think he's going to put in a hell of a shift, and he's young, right? It's something that we can look forward to as a future presence in the DCU, not just a one-off type of character. I'm all in on this cast.
That's the way I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this as like this isn't supposed to be like a Thanos or a Joker performance. I'm looking at this as like a more of an ensemble movie. Like if you look at the cast here, you have multiple heroes. You have Anthony Carrick and you have a Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner, freaking Green Lantern in this. And obviously you have Mr. Terrific too, another X-Men First Class, Eddie Gathegi. So I don't pronunciation not my thing. Remember that. So yeah, I think it's okay for this movie. It's just like down the line, we're gonna have to he's going to have to be that big bad that we expect for the DCU. And I think, you know what, with age, he can get there. But if I'm just grading the casting itself, when you had, kind of guys that are ready right now to be that big bad, I would have given a Skarsgård a higher grade, I guess is like where I'm going from it. But no way am I lowering the ceiling. I think the ceiling is just as high as the Skarsgårds in the future, just maybe not for this individual movie.
Like when you say Skarsgård, are you referring to either Alex or Bill
Yes,
as Lex
either.
Luthor? No way I would have been comfortable having Bill Skarsgård as Lex Luthor. No way. He like too
I
much of
think
a
you could
slender
done it.
build, like a creepiness to him that is great for a villain, but not for a Lex Luthor. And Alexander Skarsgård, like physical presence, like definitely could be. And you see what he was as Matt's in Succession, right? Try and put him in a more like campy type of version of that character as Lex Luthor. That could work. What I want to see, and like what's similar with like an Alexander Skarsgård or a Nicholas Hoult, is more of a classic comic book version of the character. I think that's what we're in store for. And I think we needed one of these types of castings after Jesse Eisenberg's casting in the DCEU for Zack Snyder. I think that one, it was so experimental. Like, you're like, oh, this could work, right? This could work, but it has to be done right. And I feel like those castings that Zack Snyder made, they were more for like to execute his vision rather than like actually concerning what the actual version of the character is in the comic books. So I think you have like James Gunn seeing Nicholas Hoult, great actor, can do his own version of the character, but also can keep the inherent like soul that we see in the comic books. Like that's what we were missing from a lot of like the castings from the Snyderverse. And I think this one, it's like it shows that whether it's the Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen, right, or the Corn Sweat with the iconic look like Cavill had, the likeness of the Christopher Reeves. I think Nicholas Hoult has that. And if he bulks up a little bit, I think he could be really formidable. I think he could be an excellent choice, right? More so than Eisenberg was.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, you say he bulks up. Okay, fine. Either way, I think he's bulky enough, anyways. But as in like for this first movie, a younger Lex Luthor, maybe perhaps he gets bigger as he goes. I don't know. It's not. He's obviously not playing Superman, so it's not like David Cornswet that still that we got the other day of him working out in the gym. He doesn't need to get that big for Lex Luthor. But again, like Skarsgård could have done the same thing and just make him less creepy, and he's done it before. Like he's played that villain to a T. I think very well in John Wick 4, and obviously you have it, which obviously it's a little different. It's a lot different, but that's why I think just based off a resume, I still would have liked Bill Skarsgård. I don't. If it was Alexander Skarsgård, I would have been through the roof. I think that would have been a slam dunk. But hey, that's not what we got. I'm happy with Nicholas Hoult. It's just hey, he's been known as like kind of a starting pitcher. He can get you 7 innings, but he hasn't been able to close the game really. He's been getting he got the final three for the Batman, final three for Superman. Hasn't been able to close out the game and get that role. You know what? Maybe you just got to play the villain, and then this was supposed to be what you were doing all along, right? Know who you are, and I'm hoping that this is it for him.
Yeah, I like that realization that maybe he just isn't meant to play the hero. Maybe he's meant to
Right.
play the villain. And what he's so good at is playing characters that are both super likable and dislikable. He has that wide range in his filmography that makes you believe he could be a hero or a villain. That's why I freaking love this casting. And he's just one of my favorite actors. And I like to see this guy keep getting like work that really matters to me in like projects that I am looking forward to on screen. Hell yeah. And this is leading into some of our other castings here, Ricky Flex, and this got a lot of this movie is getting a lot of hype now following like the announcements here, following the actor strike ending. It just makes me think, imagine when the Brave and the Bold castings get announced, when we have a Batman announced, when we have a Robin announced, when we have a Commissioner Gordon, when we have other Bat family members announced, when you have a villain announced for that movie, it's going to be like tenfold, right, of the excitement level in this movie. I just can't wait for it. But moving on, we also have, speaking of Lex Luthor, we got a casting for Eve Teschmacher, who is famously the assistant to Lex Luthor. Sarah Sampaio is playing the character. Ricky Flex, what are your thoughts on this character being included?
It's interesting. Again, it seems like we're going to get a little bit more of a backstory with Lex Luthor, even in this big ensemble type of movie like
Mm-hmm.
that. As far as Sarah Sampaio, Victoria's Secret's angel, not really like an actress yet. So this will be great for her to get into a big superhero, big budget movie and to see where her career takes off from here. She's obviously got the looks, to play that like classic assistant to CEO or whatever, right? So we'll see if how she does. I think she'll be fine, and then maybe this will be a stepping stone for her career, maybe perhaps, or it's just a one and done, and we say, oh yeah, she did her part. See you later.
Right. And she is going to be playing, I would assume, a ditz in this type of movie because that's the character that Teschmacher is in
Usually,
the original 1978 Superman, a character created by Richard Donner. That's the interesting thing about this character. And thinking about Superman legacy, it's not just the comic book lore, but what are the movies that came before it, and honoring those movies. And having the Teschmacher character shows me like we're gonna have some of that potential humor that James Gunn likes to incorporate, something a character you would never assume was going to be incorporated in the Snyderverse. And you see that announcement here. When I saw Teschmacher, I just imagined Gene Hackman screaming that voice as Lex Luthor. You know,
Yeah.
Teschmacher, Miss Teschmacher. Like, oh, that's, I need like a callback to that in the movie. And you're right, it does, to provide a different element potentially for Lex Luthor, one that we haven't seen from Jesse Eisenberg, right? More humanized element. I love that too. And she plays an interesting role in the earlier Superman films because she kind of like is supportive and a love interest of Lex Luthor, but also like has the hots for Superman, you know? So I think that could be an interesting element to the story. But Madison Beer, I think, also said that she was like, she auditioned for a role in Superman Legacy. I assume it was for this character more so than like a Lois Lane played by Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah, that would definitely make more sense. No
Yeah.
disrespect, of course.
No disrespect, but like that's a good casting, for this movie. Smart casting, where it's like someone you don't want to be an expert actress. You want just a big name, right? Attractive, ditz, and almost intentionally bad of an actor. Smart decision. Or
Right.
someone inexperienced, I should say. Uh, Lastly, Skylar Gisondo cast as Jimmy Olsen in Superman Legacy. Talk about castings that are spot on. This is an A plus. I
Yeah.
give this grade an A plus. Your thoughts?
Yeah. The freckles,
Yeah.
we think of Vacation playing the younger James Griswold or whatever, right? I think it's James, right? Whatever.
Who
And
remembers that?
I don't know. The Griswolds, it's the Griswolds, vacation movies,
Young Griswold.
Yeah, young Griswold. And like book smart, like he's perfect for this to play just a photographer, freckles on his face, looks the part, has acted the part before. This is just another one. And again, interesting. We've like I know people on X have been looking to see like, oh, is Jimmy Olsen going to be in this movie or be prominent in this movie? This tells me with this casting that a younger Superman, a younger Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, he's got his buddy now, right? He's got his buddy, he's got Lois Lane. Yeah, we're going to be getting inside the Daily Planet a lot more than we have in the recent 21st Century Superman movies, which I like. So again, not just an ensemble movie, but also we're getting a fresh look at Superman, one that we haven't really seen. And I really like that. And I think this casting is kind of an inkling to that.
Way more comic inspired casting. Once again, James Gunn hitting it out of the park right now. Like we had Zack Snyder. Once again, I'm going to come at him again for how he handled Jimmy Olsen. How we didn't know it was Jimmy Olsen who gets killed off at the beginning of Batman vs Superman after about a minute or less of screen time at the beginning of the film, and we only find out it's Jimmy Olsen in the Ultimate Edition, where it's not even in the theatrical cut. Like sometimes Snyder was making decisions for with the characters that were almost too smart, and it was like overthinking it rather than just like, hey, people love this exact iteration of the character for a reason. It seems like we have the spot on look with the ginger freckle type of Jimmy Olsen, great casting with the naive or like the high moral type of character. And ever since we saw Gisondo in Licorice Pizza, when he was playing the 70s child star, I was like, oh, this guy can play Jimmy Olsen. There's just something about this kid that has the vibe of like, gee whiz, like that's the type of vibe he gives off. It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, and Licorice Pizza, that's like the one part I'm like, huh, like he's not as like he's trying to be like a smooth guy. He's trying to be like, oh, I'm the king. I'm the king around here. Like he like in Licorice Pizza, like he's kind of like the main guy in all the kid stars, right? He's kind of like trying to portray that. Here, it's going to be the exact opposite. Like you said, the Gee Whiz kid.
Yeah, still that character is kind of inherently funny. That guy is like the boss of all the child actors. He thinks he's hot shit a little bit, right? And it's kind of like oblivious to other things happening around him, right? And thinks like nothing can touch him. He's like so superior of a character, a little naive type of thing you might need for like a Jimmy Olsen. Okay. So those are the three major castings. You brought up a bunch of the supporting characters. What I'm interested now, Ricky Flex, is after having a Lex Luthor, might there be a secondary villain, right? Maybe someone under or serving a Lex Luthor. Do you think we might get another casting in that regard for this movie?
I don't know. I
A
haven't heard.
la like Penguin in the Batman.
feel like we would know that by now, though, that like they would be looking for somebody, right?
Mhm.
Like this movie did not change its release date for 2025, right? Even through the strikes. And I feel like we've known this Jimmy Olsen casting was coming. We knew that the Lex Luthor casting was coming at some point. We've heard nothing about a potential another villain casting. I
Right.
feel like I feel like this is the group that we got of the major players now. These are the guys. This is the squad. Now let's go execute. James Gunn. Let's go execute on camera.
Mm-hmm. And maybe don't stuff too many characters. Like obviously we have a bunch of secondary characters expanding the DCU. It's been around for some time. It's like a second year type of Superman, or at least has some experience already. Established that like heroes exist in this world. I get that. I was also curious, like we talk about like the Fantastic Four, right? These past couple of weeks, and having Doctor Doom as like the main villain potentially of the first movie, or Galactus, excuse me, the villain of the first movie. Is that too much for an intro movie? But like, especially when you have such a young Lex Luthor for Nicholas Hoult that we're going to see down the line, I think you might see someone just below that pay grade, right? Like wouldn't be surprised if you got like a Toy Man, that's like here, that's underneath him, okay? Or some lesser known villain, maybe B list type of superhero villain that, yeah, that's a little outside the box type of thinking, almost like the castings for the Spider-Man movies for the MCU, where it's like, oh, this character never got his shine on screen. We care about it in comic book lore. James Gunn, huge fan of comic books. I thought that might have been the case there. I also want to say Perry White. We're missing Perry White. Who should play him?
Oh, good point. That's a good one. Crap. I haven't thought about it for 1 second. I will say I did like Lawrence Fishburne's Perry White. I did like it. I'm not saying to recast him as that. I think we should go separate. I'm just saying shout out to Lawrence Fishburne. No, all right. Who do you think? While I think about it.
Um, so I think we could see like I'm trying to think about like it's a pretty white cast still, like we could see like a black Perry White again. And in that case, like Samuel L. Jackson be interesting as he goes at the end of like the MCU and as Nick Fury, maybe just slides over and does Perry White there. It has
That
to
would
be
be
someone
interesting.
middle-aged, like let's say I want to say 60s, right? Maybe someone that, oh man, like someone that has experience with comic book movies in their past, that would be a nice fan casting, something like that.
Yeah, I got nothing. I honestly, I have to have. I want to think about it more. I want to
Brian
give a true
Cox.
answer. Right, guy, that's a little much.
He wouldn't do it. He's old. He doesn't, I don't think he likes the blockbuster fare as much.
Yes, Succession
Except he
himself,
said he
Logan
would. He
Roy.
did think he was going to be a James Bond, M, or a James Bond character when he signed up for that reality show that he's doing, the James Bond one for
Right,
Amazon.
right. Yeah, you know what? Fine. It'd be a little weird Logan Roy being like taking a step down, back down from from a conglomerate to newspaper. But hey, I'm okay with it.
Or it's like someone that's like on the level of like age of like J.K. Simmons, but obviously you can't have him because he's
Yeah,
J. Jonah Jameson. Like
yeah.
someone
Daily
his
Bugle, Daily
age.
Planet.
I guess we'll have to milk on that a little bit, and we'll get back to you on the next episode of the Drive-In. Okay. Any other final thoughts?
No, this again. That's a good shout, Perry White. I forgot about him. But besides that, like this is pretty much the squad. I'm looking forward to this. And again, 2025 is going to be a huge superhero year. It's a massive superhero year with the Batman Part 2. This big for DCU because they're going to take a year off of movies next year. So, hey, DCU coming back with Superman. I can't wait. I can't wait with the younger squad. Love it.
Last shout, fun DC fan casting for Perry White, someone who's played someone that's worked in a newspaper before, Michael Keaton. I'll leave you at that.
The other guys too, when he's like the captain, I could see him as Perry White too.